Can I ask everybody to do something? I think we'll appreciate it. Let's stand up together. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to ask you if we can close our eyes and place a hand over our hearts and take a long, slow, deep breath in and out. Feel your heartbeat. You are alive right here, right now. Yes. Now open your eyes and offer a warm smile to the person on your right and on your left and lock that gaze. It may feel awkward, but just stick with it. That's wonderful. Thank you, everyone. That was easy, right? Thank you. What you just experienced was connection. And yet today, disconnection has become our norm. We scroll more than we speak. We transact more than we touch. We consume more than we connect. The cost of this behavior, it's collective. Our mental health, our relationships, and our sense of well-being are all paying the price. You know, I am so happy to be here. My name is Kristine Szabo, and I almost didn't make it. And not because I missed a flight, but because on April 3rd, 2011, I swallowed a very tall glass of pills, and I tried to end my life. From the outside, oh, that's me. My life looked picture perfect. I had a great modeling career. I lived with LA sunshine every day, and I had 3 of the most adorable little dogs that I called my babies. But on the inside, the story that wasn't being shown was the ruminating thoughts, the crutching binge eating, the grief, and even guilt. And I just wanted the pain to stop. I wanted the struggle to go away. Well, I'm here. Thank God the overdose didn't end me. Thank you. Thank you. And it took years of deep work to rebuild my body, my mind, and my life. And it was only then that I could finally ask myself, what really went wrong? And how did I come back? It all came down to one thing: connection. To another, to Mother Earth, and to myself. And so I'm here to share the healing I found when I turned away from a capital-centric life and began to reconnect. So the question is, how do we live well without losing what keeps us whole? How do we build lives that value who we are over what we produce? Lives that heal our mental health, give us purpose, and bring us back to what we were always meant to be, simply human. Much of our mental health crisis is cultural. We've been trained to trade connection with consumption, community with competition, people for productivity, and we measure life by output. But it wasn't always this way. Oh, wait, let's start here. Hold on. With something I think we all can relate to, this guy. For some of you, you may feel like this, once a week? For others of you, maybe once a day. But I bet there's a few of you out there that it can feel a little bit like this guy all the time. Well, 15 years ago, this overwhelm became my constant. And to make matters worse, my heart felt like that. The exploding head and the broken heart, they weren't just mine. They ran through my family. When I was 10, my father, he shot himself in the head and in the heart. He didn't just pass on his DNA, he passed on this despair. And him and I were not alone. According to the World Health Organization, over 720,000 people die by suicide every year. And to make it worse, for every life we lose by suicide, there are 20 more people who attempt. That's a total of 14 million people per year. 14 million people! That's a big number. To put it into perspective, since I started speaking to you 5 minutes ago, roughly 137 people around the world have tried to end their life, and 7 of them succeeded. 7 people are now gone. Something isn't right. We have to ask ourselves, how did we get here? A big part of this crisis is rooted in a capital-centric culture that has trained us to believe that this is living. But it's not. We've been stripped to surrender to our values. This relentless pursuit of profit has warped our perception. We now value each other in numbers, income, purchases, followers, and likes. And the harms of these capital-centric ways are reaching those the most vulnerable. Today, suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death amongst children 15 and even 29-year-olds. And children as young as 10 are among suicide statistics. Sorry. Let's go back. It wasn't always like this. We once lived in deep connection with one another and with the land. We lived by the seasons, and land was free. We belonged. We could just settle down, plant seeds, grow food, form roots. We took care of each other. It was great, but then came trade, colonization, and industrialization. And this shifted power into profit. People were pushed off of their lands, forced into labor, and wealth became the measure of worth. And we lost touch with one another, with the land, and worst of all, with ourselves. And here we are now in the digital age, the most radical departure from an agrarian, natural way of existence. These new systems of survival have reshaped how we're conditioned. The harms of these capital-centric ways are reaching those that are the most vulnerable. This is my son, Matthew. He just turned 12. And I'm sure there are many of you parents out there that worry about how big tech and capitalism is shaping a world for him. We've been forced to turn our passions into profit. We take our hobbies and we make them side hustles and creative expressions. We now have to turn them into business strategies. And healthcare runs for profit, not for us people. I was really lucky after my suicide attempt because I could afford good healthcare, but millions cannot. And this has to change. Most companies, they still prioritize quarterly earnings over employee well-being. And this capital-centric mindset, it reaches into everything, including our food. Mass-produced and chemically preserved, one of the biggest silent capital-driven killers out there today is our food industry. We no longer have seasonal fruits and vegetables because we have giant freighters shipping produce around the globe so we can have blueberries 12 months a year. We have become disconnected from soil, from seasons, from scents. You know, when I would struggle with binge eating, and it was for decades, after an episode, my moods would crash, sometimes for days after a binge. This was not accidental. We're eating processed products, and corporations profit from it. And we pay not only their sticker price, but we pay the long-term emotional price, because these foods are causing malfunction in brain function, mood disorders, mental health problems, and they've even contributed it now to long-term cognitive decline. To make matters worse, and this is our fault, we lay in bed at night and we stare at our cell phones and our laptops, staring at blue light screens. We trick our bodies into believing it's daytime. We've simply chosen to ignore the rhythms of the earth. And yet, we call this progress. But it's not progressing us in any healthy direction at all. In fact, it's divorcing us from what actually is supposed to nourish us. And it's not only humans that are suffering. We're imposing this imbalance upon other species. We've industrialized animals' lives, and capitalism is inflicting the same harm upon them that we humans experience. We strip their habitats and we engineer their diets not for their well-being, certainly not for ours, it's for profit. You know, I was so amazed to find out that they're even prescribing antidepressants for animals today. The same psychiatric drugs that we humans are continually being prescribed for this ever-growing, disconnected world. It is a broken system, and something has to change because we all deserve better. You know, in my life, even my relationships mirrored a capital-first mindset. At 23, I fell madly in love with a photographer. So we shared a life of creativity, of deep connection, friendship, nature, art, travel, and in that relationship, I thrived. But then I got greedy. I thought I needed more. And I left my artist for a businessman. And I can tell you, I quickly started to struggle. And that marriage, it didn't last but 2 years. And it took me time to get over it. I had to heal again. And eventually, I did. And I fell in love again with another businessman. I thought, this time it's gonna be different. Well, I was wrong, because money went out over vows, and our wedding didn't go through the day before the ceremony. Capitalism has seeped in to even the most intimate spaces of our lives. Prenups have replaced promises. Intimacy is play-to-play. Romance gamified. Connection reduced to algorithms. So I ask you this. When did love become a transaction? ChatGPT describes love as the most profound, complex, and transformative human experience, a sense of belonging, deep connection, of sacrifice and selflessness, freedom and growth, eternal and unconditional in nature. In fact, ChatGPT clearly states, love, in its purest form, is not transactional. So, if an AI built on centuries of human knowledge knows this, why do we do otherwise? Why don't we get it? Looking back on my life, it was clear that when I spiraled, I had disconnection. It was simple threads began to go missing. Shared time, communication, intimacy. They would be replaced by convenience, speed, and screens. If we aren't connecting, we aren't being seen, nor felt, nor heard. And we simply cannot heal in an environment that we are invisible. We cannot be well. So it requires changes, small, meaningful ones. And this isn't about going backwards. It's about going forwards in a way that brings us back. Put your iPhones down, your cell phones down when you're with people and when you're in bed. Eat food only your great-grandmother would recognize. If she doesn't know it's food, don't put it in your mouth. Spend time with your elders, with your children, with your animals. Listen, hug the people you love, the people that love you. Go outside, feel the sun, the seasons, move, and please breathe. This is about reclaiming what it truly means to live by putting purpose beyond ourselves, by seeing the other, by connecting. You know, a really funny story, a true story, I promise you, a true story. The very same day, I think it was within 2 hours that I finished writing this talk, I overheard my son, Matthew, in the kitchen. He was talking to his French tutor, and they were going over the verbs avoir and être, to have and to be. And he asked her with his cute little voice, "Why does everything always come down to have and to be?" And I was like, what did I just hear? Oh my gosh. My kiddo just summed up my entire talk in one question. And I knew that it was the divine, God, telling me that I was right to want to tell this story, that it had to be heard. Because the greatest tragedy isn't just the people we lose to suicide. It's the millions of us who are here who feel unseen, unheard, and alone. So be the one who remembers, the one who notices, who reconnects. Because by doing that, you save a life. And you know what? You may just be saving your own. I say this to you, thank you, as someone who almost lost her life. Recognize the need to connect. Because the antidote to this crisis that we have is not another dollar, another corporate title. It's not bigger, better, more. It's real human connection. It's a deep sense of belonging that will come from a natural, grounded way of life. It's by making one simple choice. When we live in our hearts, space opens. Expectations soften. And it is then that we remember that we are not alone.